welcome to episode 3, Dark Night of the Soul. We are so happy that you are here. Thank you for tuning in and listening.
Sorry, guys. I'm laughing right now because I didn't realize we were recording. And we went off a whole fucking tangent about Mr. Ego and his fucking ugly ass.
That's okay. We hope that you enjoyed it. We're keeping all of this. So
Yes.
we will dive right into the episode in order now.
Yes. So what is this episode about? This episode, okay, sorry guys. Okay, hold on. Let me take a deep breath, recalibrate. I forgot, I didn't realize we were recording. Jenna pulled a fast one on me. I can't. Okay. So last episode we talk about the fact that we do learn lessons, which I think we were kind of talking about now. We learn lessons along the way to help us remember sort of that love within us. And obviously it takes time. There's like a layer by layer process of soul work and unearthing sort of triggers, patterns, and cycles that we kind of need to break from so that we can kind of come into alignment. Now, there is such a thing called the dark night of the soul.
It's more like the dark night of the soul. Dun, dun, dun.
Dun, dun, dun. That's actually sounds all right. Yeah. So from experience, I really think the dark night of the soul is probably one of the hardest initiations we will go through in this path to soul. It's sort of like, at least for me, and I don't know how it is for everybody else, and you could tell me yours, but it's almost like that one lesson that no matter how it's presented to you, you just never seem to learn it because you're so fucking hard-headed. And then one day, it's almost like your world gets shaken up. You're plunged into like the midst of lessons and hard chaos, just like it's just chaotic. It's like a storm. You're in suffering. You're literally battling dark and light within you. There's like this war within you. Your head, like your ego, your heart, like everything inside and outside. So basically everything that's happening inside is chaotic. So everything that's happening outside you is chaotic. And even though you've been on the spiritual path and you have the tools, you have the meditation, you have the affirmations, you have the gratitude, the mindfulness, the self-care, it doesn't matter what tools you have in your belt to help you through it. It's almost like there's a fog. And no matter how you try, nothing fucking works. Like you can't affirmation your way out of it. You can't gratitude your way out of it. You can't meditate your way the fuck out of it. And you're literally in this dark tunnel with no light at the end of it.
Yes.
I'm laughing right now.
People are probably wondering, I know you listeners are wondering, so how do I get out of the dark night of the soul?
Oh, well,
I am currently in mine, guys. So stay tuned so you can watch my journey on how I get out of the dark night of the soul.
oh girl, that is hard. That is hard. Well, that's the thing though. Like, so are you really in yours now?
I am, yeah.
Okay. So how long do you feel like you've been in yours?
Like a couple months.
Okay, so I don't want to scare you. So I literally in the last year just came out of it. And from okay, don't be scared.
Okay, this is very exciting. Okay, so we have one person who's already gone through it, one person who's in it. We're gonna learn a lot here.
Yeah. So again, guys, I don't want to scare you. Dark night of the soul really, this whole spiritual process is dependent on you, right, as an individual. So my dark night started, and we can talk about the catalyst. So you know how like we talk about the catalyst to spiritual awakening, there is a catalyst to the dark night. And my dark night started in March of 2017 and ended, and I only say ended because I finally felt like I was bathing in the light once I got to a certain point. And it probably took about 3 years. So don't be scared.
I'm scared. I'm very scared. I was maybe 1 year tops.
Okay. Well, it depends on the person, right?
I know.
I'm just very hard-headed. Apparently, I don't learn my lessons soon enough. But so the reason why it took me a long time was because the catalyst to my dark night was, excuse me, the fact that I was married. I had gotten married. And in the beginning, it was sort of like everything I thought I wanted and needed, you know, and everything I thought that I was looking for, um, only to realize in hindsight that it was a lot of projection. I was projecting a lot onto him. And I was basically collecting red flags like they were fucking red roses, red rose bouquets, right? Like I just didn't see the red flags, or I just refused to see the red flags because I was so caught up in the wanting to be married and wanting to be in this marriage. And I literally went from the beginning part of it where, oh my God, this is so good, to what the fuck did I get myself into? And all of a sudden, I found myself in this really toxic, abusive marriage. And by the way, like, it wasn't like he wasn't like that when we first met. It was almost like he had hidden a lot of himself. So I didn't really see it. It wasn't until like literally, I would say 6 months after the marriage, that all of that started to come out. And I was like, what the F is this even?
Yeah.
And I was in a really, really dark place because I was the receiving end of it. So if anyone is going through, listening right now, going through like something like that, where you're in this abusive relationship and you don't know how to get out of it, know that there is a way out. It's just you have to choose you. And it took me a while to kind of get that, because throughout this whole dark night of the soul process, it's almost like triggers are going to come up for you to heal them and for you to really like be aware of them. But I just wasn't getting that. The entire time I was in victim mode. The entire time I was like, this is happening to me. He's literally abusing me. And I just didn't see how that was helping. I just didn't see it as like a soul lesson at that point. And I don't know, I failed to realize that my actions and intentions actually going into the marriage came from a place of projecting unhealed wounds, abandonment, loneliness, codependency, and all that jazz. I was basically running a program, like a subconscious program that I agreed to, of like unworthiness, not enoughness, guilt, shame, which technically we were taught that indirectly because those who taught us, i.e., our parents, and again, this is not their fault, but they didn't realize they were downloading all of those programming onto us. So anyway, so I basically perpetuated that cycle and manifested the life that they had into my marriage. And I didn't know that. Obviously, when you're in the midst of your dark night in like a toxic abusive marriage, like I I don't know, I was in a really dark place. Mind you, I didn't tell a lot of people what was happening. I didn't tell a lot of people that I was in that space. So when you saw me at work, when you saw me outside of my home, I was the usual upbeat, happy me. But then I just didn't want to go home. It was literally hell on earth for me for 3 years. And in hindsight, that was my fault. I will never say that abuse is your fault. Abuse is, there's never, like, you can never condone abuse by anyone. So don't ever think that I'm condoning abuse. All I'm saying is that I showed up in this marriage a certain way and it wasn't my best self. And I also understand that. So we project a lot of things, right? We project a lot of things, and then we kind of create this story in our heads, this loop in our heads. And the entire time, guess what story I was creating in my head? I was in a bad marriage. I was with an abusive husband. Life sucked. And guess what came back to me? I was in an abusive marriage. Life sucked. You know what I mean? Like, it's almost like I was in this cycle of, but I brought my own hell into that situation because I forgot that I had the power to walk away. And guess why I didn't walk away? Because I was scared of what other people thought. I thought that because I was married, I mean, it kind of sucks, but I thought that because I was married, I had to fix it. I had to help and I had to do all these things. But the thing is, you can't help someone who's not willing to help themselves. And so, you know, I can laugh about it now because I've healed a lot of trauma from that, and that was a really, really rough 3 years. And there was never a point in those 3 years until the end that I thought I could leave. And I literally thought I was going to be in hell for a while. You know, and it's hard to go back to that place. It's hard to kind of remember. Um, you know, again, I did the best I could. I tried to positive affirmation and gratitude my way out of it, and it wasn't until I realized I had literally given all my power away at that time and experienced that life as a victim that things started to change. There was a there was a quote that I saw one day, and it basically said, I couldn't see the light at the end of the tunnel, so I lit up that bitch myself. And the funny thing about quotes is until you embody it, it's just words on a screen.
Mm-hmm.
And when I saw that quote, I was like, fuck yeah, I'm gonna light this bitch up myself. And that was sort of the catalyst to me coming out of that marriage and coming out of my dark night, when I finally realized I had the power all along. And it took a while to get there. Took a while to get there. So there is a light at the end of the tunnel. Took a while to get there. And like sometimes you see words and they activate you, and those words literally activated me. And it might have activated me maybe 6 months before I even left, because there's still things that you kind of go through. You kind of go through the process of, okay, maybe he'll change. Maybe we can make this better. I mean, this was, let me tell you, me leaving was not for a lack of trying. Like we went to therapy. We went to I literally was on my knees begging him to see me.
Mm-hmm.
But there came a point where I looked at him in the eye, and his eyes were so glazed over from just the addiction of the drugs that I knew I couldn't even get to his soul at that point. And that's when I said, okay, it's either I stay and live a life that I'm not happy with, or let me take my fucking power back, because I deserve a fucking amazing life. And yeah, that was, in a nutshell, I guess, in a nutshell, that was my dark night.
Wow.
And it was rough. It was really rough. And like a lot of people didn't know until the end of it, until I left,
Yeah.
that I finally started to tell people. And I don't even think I really have told a lot of people the abuse and like all that. I will say, so when it comes to abuse, it's like emotional abuse. It's, you know, it's literally him in my face yelling and screaming on a daily basis. We had a dog. It was his dog, really, and he was like literally my protector. So anytime he would go into an episode, the dog would be on top of me, staring him in the face and being like, no, you don't fucking touch her.
Mm-hmm.
And he's come close. He had come close to it.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know what I would have done. I don't know if that would have catapulted me into a darker spiral if it ended up that way. Because you never know, like you never really know what happens to you until you're in it. Like I never thought I'd be a strong woman allowing myself to be treated that way. But when you're in that situation, you think it's a movie. You don't think it's real. So, yeah. So in a nutshell, that was my dark night.
Wow. Yeah, dark nights are no joke, and just a disclosure, these are our perspectives and our truths, and, just take what resonates, because everybody's journey is so personal to them and so unique. So just want to say that. But
So you're in yours. You're in yours now.
yeah, I mean, for
I'm
me, like
listening to it now.
I definitely I feel like I kind of was initiated upon after I had a karmic relationship,
Mhm.
and that really was the event that woke me up. And then I had what we talked about last week, kind of like my honeymoon period, where everything was just working out for me, literally. Like everything was working out for me. I felt like, and this is the thing, like we said, you come out and you're like, I'm on top of the world. My spirit guides love me. I am so highly favored. Nothing is going to happen in my life that's going to, push me backwards. Like, I'm a spiritual being. I am a goddess of light. I am untouchable. I am invincible. And
Here's the boomerang.
and the universe is like, this girl's learned nothing. So enter Dark Night of the Soul, where you really begin to or where I've really began to purge and release like my old beliefs and really beginning to integrate, all of the things that I'm learning and really, detaching from my not detaching but separating from like my humanness and integrating more of my spiritual self. And it's very challenging because now it's like, it's for me, it's putting me in that place of where I'm going to live my 5D life, you know what I mean, like the limbo that we talked about. And it's really just the shedding of old beliefs and purging of our old programming, and and being challenged to step into this new world and my new self, and making mistakes and being put back, to square A, and then being like, okay, well, that didn't work, let me try again. And I feel like the Dark Night of Soul really for me is just this, is that place, a little bit of stagnancy, you're trying to figure it out. You're in this puzzle and you're constantly putting in a piece and it's like, oh well, that's not it, let me try again. And it's really just, for me, that cycle that keeps coming, you talk about that cycle that just keeps coming that you can't let go of. It's around beliefs and programming and owning, the spiritual being that you are, and really saying like, these things that I thought were important to me before, the material things, the money, the this and the that, it's not about that. Our purpose is so much greater than the accumulation of material items and how people view me and how, so it really is a what do you call a reunion of self.
Yeah,
I feel like I'm driving cross country to go to my reunion self, and then 5 miles down the way I get a flat tire, and then 2 miles down the way like someone breaks into my car, and so it's a slow ass freaking journey, but we'll get there. uh,
You're like in that,
um,
like, do you feel like you're in a tunnel right now?
oh, for sure. I
Like,
feel
you're
like
in the
I'm
middle of the
doing
tunnel, right?
I feel like I'm doing everything right and everything wrong at the same time.
Yeah. And you know what's so you, I was watching something the other day and she said, the dark night of the soul, sometimes people call it the dark night of the ego because that's essentially what happens. Like triggers are coming up to be healed.
Mm-hmm.
Trauma and programming is coming
So
out to be healed,
many.
but our egos are constantly battling us to
Mhm.
stop it because it wants to keep us safe. It wants to keep
Yeah.
us in a state of comfort versus going through all these emotions and all this. It's not really suffering, it's really purging.
Yeah.
That way we come out of it. And so past the discomfort, past the purging, past the triggers, past the programming is true freedom. It's really living from an aligned and soul aligned place and living from our heart space. But in order for us to live from our heart space, we need to really, really peel off all the layers of trauma and, again, things that we were taught
Yeah.
growing up by either the media or school or religion or our parents who didn't really know any better.
Yeah.
Because think about it, our parents learn from their parents, from their parents. And what tends to happen is when they learn, like, it's a cycle, right? It's a cycle of them doing the do because that's what they were taught.
Mm-hmm.
I think for for us, the reason why we go through our dark night of the soul is so that we can become aware that we can break generational cycles. We can actually break those patterns of our parents that were not necessarily wrong. It's just not a soul aligned way of living our lives,
Mm.
right?
Yeah.
And I always say how grateful I am to be able to be the one chosen to break the generational curses, because it feels so good to be able to do that. Because even like as I was going through the dark night and purging so much. That's another thing with the dark night. You literally purge so much. And like you were talking about it earlier, you were crying yesterday for hours.
Ugly cry.
Ugly cry. And a lot of the time when you're crying, like ugly cry, like creases in your forehead, like there's no ending. And literally your heart literally cracks wide open. It's because we're healing not just this generation or this lifetime. There's a lot of the time there's all this soul contracts and karma and all this stuff from past generations and past lives that is coming through to be healed as well, because we are connected. There is no time and space. Like we are connected across different lifetimes, and we carry a lot of things because our souls carry a lot of things from different lifetimes, and we're meant to heal certain things within this lifetime. And again, while the dark night of the soul is traumatizing, it's fucking traumatizing. I was traumatized for a while. It was traumatizing. I will say there is a lesson there, and like coming out of that, it's funny. I can laugh about it only because I've come to a place of understanding. And you had talked about this, I think, in the last episode, how you're so much more compassionate and empathetic of people. And not that I was not compassionate before the dark night, but I feel like I've become so much more compassionate of other people's suffering. So I can literally talk about my dark night without crying anymore, because I've come to a place realizing that my ex, he is so hurt, and sort of like he has so much pain within him that he couldn't even touch it. And that's why he acted the way he acted. That's why he was acting out. And I can't blame him for that, because that's what he was taught and that's what he learned. And he has so much pain to the point that he can't even face it himself. So I had to actually send him a lot of love and forgiveness, because I know what that pain is. I was lucky enough to be able to feel that pain and allowed myself to feel that pain, and really took radical responsibility to heal. But he just can't get there because, and God, I don't know, I haven't spoken to him, so I don't know whether or not he has. And I, wish him well. I do hope that he does find healing, but I have so much more compassion for him now.
Yeah.
Not to say that I would ever get back together with him. No, we don't settle anymore. After the dark night, we do not settle.
Yeah.
That's the one thing, ladies, we do not settle. But yeah, I mean, I feel you that you're going through this, because I remember being in that dark tunnel and feeling stuck, that I could not get out. I could not get out. I could not claw my way out. And it does take a daily practice of, and I was talking to someone today about it. Oh, actually my goddess mentor. We were going through like a meditation, and she asked me something, and I said, I had to love myself more than the marriage. I had to love myself more than wanting to be stuck. I had to love myself more than other people's opinions of me leaving the marriage. I had to love myself more than all these things that kept me stuck in that dark night. And it took me 3 years. I wish it didn't. I wish it only took me a year. Right. But, I pray that you actually get out of it, the sooner the better, but so much stronger and so much more forgiving and compassionate with yourself, because you are doing a fucking great job.
Thank you.
For being a dark night, honey. Like, I was like in a dark room, close the door, light candles. Like I was in ritual almost every day because I needed to conserve my energy. But like, I mean, I didn't even realize you were going through the dark night right now.
Well, yours was probably tough because I feel like people's dark night, like the main, like that big thing where the cycle presents itself, it's usually around love, money, self-worth.
Self-love, yep.
More 1, 2, 3, all of the above. Mine seems to be around money. And it's not
So no
Probably
lottery win for you,
probably
honey.
not the worst one, but it's a hard one. You know
It
what
is
I
a hard
mean?
one.
Yeah. So
Absolutely.
I'm taking the steps. You know, I hired a financial coach, you
Yes.
know, because I feel like
Accountability.
yes, accountability is so important. I feel like
So
I'm being called to lead, you know, pave my own way,
mhm.
not
Yeah.
rely on the system and not go to a corporate job.
Sugardaddy.com.
Yeah,
Oh
no
wait,
no sugardaddy.com
I
for
keep
me.
forgetting, guys. I like to joke around if you haven't noticed, especially since
Yeah, if you have a sugar
I
daddy,
didn't
no judgment.
I didn't realize we were recording, so even more so my like jokiness comes out. I just, like to poke fun. This is actually a very serious conversation.
I'm taking Catherine Zenkina's motto, the universe is my sugar daddy. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, so, I got the coach, I'm doing the things, and
Yeah.
it's like the universe is so funny. They'll be like, here's all this money, and I'm like, woo. And I'm like, oh, I'm smart now. I'm going to do it right. And then I do the same things, you
You
know.
repeat the
So,
damn cycle.
yeah, so I'm trying. I'm like, I hear you, I hear you, I hear you. I'm only fucking human. Give me a break, okay? Ooh, my ears like, ooh, the universe. They're like,
They're telling you to break the damn cycle.
that was a loud one too.
It's easier said than done to be able to break those cycles, especially when they're in a loop in your head. Like, it's literally a constant daily practice of once that loop starts, you stop it mid loop and you stop the cycle and you break the habits. So one of the people that actually one sorry, one of the teaching that I actually helped me through this was Dr. Joe Dispenza. He has a book called Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself. And it's true, in order for us to live a very different life, in order for us to be able to get out of our own way, we have to stop being the people that we used to become the person we are meant to be. But there so how do you get there? How do you do that? You literally have to stop, be aware of our so-called fucked upness, be aware of all of our cycles and our patterns and our triggers, and say, all right, I refuse to love that more than me. I now will love myself more than that, and I will do everything I can to break that cycle. And the thing, here's one of the lessons that I learned throughout the dark night and kind of getting out of the dark night is when we are trying to break a habit or a pattern or a trigger, we stop because there's a time frame when we're in this space of discomfort, and we don't like being uncomfortable. But the funny thing about discomfort is it could last, that feeling of discomfort, that feeling of sitting with it, can last an hour, it can last 2 weeks, it can last 10 seconds, but we don't allow ourselves that
Last
discomfort. A year? Jesus, girl. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
3 years.
3 years, exactly. But that's what I mean. Like, it took me 3 years to break out of that. Imagine 3 years. Like, come on, don't be like Patty. But yeah, I mean, but once I got past that discomfort, I realized that discomfort wasn't so hard. It
Yeah.
wasn't so hard to feel it. It wasn't it. I just leaned into my edges, and once I leaned into that edge, yes, it felt gross. I didn't want to be there, but then I leaned past that, and guess what's past that? Freedom.
Yeah.
And I have felt so much freedom since being able to lead from my heart and get past that discomfort. And Mr. Ego, that little old man, will continue to tell you, nope, don't do it, don't do it, don't do it, until you say to him, I love me more than you, so I'm going to do it.
Yeah. I love that. Yeah, it's so inspiring and so encouraging. And, it just shows it's so funny you talk about this discomfort. Like our human selves has this ability, like we kind of enjoy this pain process a little bit, it's
We do. We are addicted to it.
yeah, I was eating some garlic knots last night. And they were really hot,
Yeah.
and I went to go pick one up and I'm like, oh, that burned my fingers. but my want for it to be in my mouth was
Mhm.
greater than this like pain that I was feeling. So I
Mhm.
kept picking it up and kept dropping it, like just to get a bite. You know, I got a bite and then it fall out of my hand and I'm like, ouch. And I go back and pick it up and get a little bite and drop it. And I'm like, why can't I just wait for it to cool down? Like,
Yep.
why?
Because it tastes so good.
Because I'm a fucking human.
Yeah,
This is
exactly.
how we're programmed. So,
This
you
is
know,
how
it's
we're programmed.
saying, you know, this life is like being like dangled in front of us, but we choose to like experience this pain. You know, we're like, oh, we got like just a little bit of taste, but nope, we're you know, we just continue to burn ourselves and then we drop it. And then we're like, oh, I'm gonna go back, and we burn ourselves and we drop it. You know, it's so silly.
It's silly, but it's not, because you know what? We were never taught a different way, is the thing.
I know, yeah.
And we have to give ourselves permission to say, you know what? It is what it is. Like, I was never taught that, but you know what? Guess what? I now have the opportunity to change it. I now have the opportunity to say, I get it. I know how to get out of this. And it's true, we are addicted. We are addicted to suffering sometimes. And no one ever wants to admit that we're addicted to suffering, but we are. Because if we weren't addicted to suffering, why would we let ourselves suffer to begin with?
Yeah,
But we're addicted to that constant loop in our head that keeps us in suffering.
yeah,
It's like the validation from other people.
yeah,
That's programming, right? Like, oh, did a teacher give us a clap? Did a teacher acknowledge us today? Did you know, like, from the time that we were in school, it's like, okay, who's gonna be the teacher's pet? Who's gonna, you know what I mean? Like, that's external validation. And like, as we grow up, we try to find external validation from people, and it's an addiction
yeah,
that it's a cycle. But then we have to come to a point where, whose opinion matters more, mine, for me, or other people's? And
yeah,
then it comes to a point where we start to learn that, no, you know what, my opinion is the only thing that matters for myself, because I'm the one living my life.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
you know, and it's how we're raised. You know, we have this, we're born into this approval addiction, right?
ooh, yes.
And it's we exhibit it in many different ways, you know, like, you know, I really don't want to do this, but I'm going to do it because I feel bad. That's a big one, you know, something that probably everybody does on a daily basis.
Guilt. Guilt. Especially like you and me, right? We were raised in more religious upbringing, and there's a lot of guilt and shame. And if you don't do this thing, God will be mad at you
Mhm.
paradigm.
Yeah,
And that is such the wrong thing to teach kids,
right.
right?
Grow up, you know, and it's really contradicts itself. You know, they tell us we need to be God fearing, but God loves you.
Exactly. Well, we learned that now, right? We learned that like, God is actually a very loving,
Yeah.
forgiving, and open God, not the fear-based God that we were taught
Yes.
to to fear. And it's so isn't it so much nicer to believe in a God that loves you and cares for you and wants to take care of you and
Yeah.
wants to like hug you, and like, he wants you to learn your lessons so that you can live the best life you could possibly live. That's the kind of God that I want to believe in, and that's the God that I do believe in.
Yeah.
Call it God, call it universe, call it source, whatever. I'm just saying God, but whoever's listening, like, I'm not trying to be religious here. I'm just trying to say that as far as the universe is concerned, the universe loves us.
Hmm.
The source, the isness that is, the creator, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
But I would rather choose to believe in that kind of creator versus one that we were programmed to believe in, right? So
Right.
there's so much programming. I mean, what other programming?
So much. Oh my
Um,
God. I think it just all comes, it all circles around approval, you know, around being good enough, around pleasing, around, you know, our value being this form of exchange, you know, and
External versus internal,
yeah,
right?
and we're programmed to seek all the answers from outside.
Yeah.
You know,
Oh,
that's probably the biggest lesson in my dark night of the soul, you know, aside from money, is seeking answers outside of myself. And when
you
my
can't Google your way out of this dark night, honey.
we're here. We're right. Like, in fact, it's even worse for me because I'm connected with my gut, you know.
Yeah.
Like, I'm very in tune,
Yeah.
you know, and they're still like, "What are you doing?
Yeah.
You know what to do," and you're still seeking outside of yourself.
Yeah.
And it just shows how hard it is to break sometimes, depending on your upbringing and how you were raised and how society treated you, whatever. But um,
But it's day by day, right? It's like, I think you either said it earlier or in another, I can't, because we have soul conversations all the time, whether we're recording or not. So I forget when you say things. I'm like, was it during an episode or not? But you said something where it was like, what were you saying? I lost my train of thought.
let
Jesus.
me let me tune in to the unknown
Telepathically.
day.
I forgot. Forget it. Forget what I was saying.
What is possible?
Forget what I was saying. Forget it.
But what we
Anyway,
were talking about was all the different ways that we've been programmed, you
yeah,
know?
all the different ways that we've been programmed. And I do think that I will say, and someone asked me, I don't know if it was you asking this question, like, what was the one thing you really truly learned during your dark night? And the biggest lesson that I learned was that we really need to learn how to cultivate self love for ourselves. And self love is not just self care. So we can self care, we can massage our way into, like, we can't massage our way into, out of things. Like, self care is, massages, mindfulness, meditation, like anything with your body, anything with your, with your mind. But when it comes down to cultivating self love for ourselves, it's really, really about choosing ourselves on a daily basis.
Boundaries.
Oh my God, boundaries is a huge thing. Huge. Because I don't know about you, but like, I was never taught how to create boundaries for myself. And that's why we tend to allow people to treat us the way they treat us, because we are so scared of being alone and so scared of rejection that we do not create healthy boundaries.
Yeah.
And part of self-love is, you're right, creating boundaries. That is like one dimension of self-love. There's so many dimensions of self-love, right? And yeah.
And I have a cheat sheet for you all. Even though I'm still in the dark night of my soul, dark night of my soul, I've still learned a few things, and I will tell you this.
Mhm.
So let me give you an example. Say Jenna's like in a relationship. I'll be like,
Okay.
oh my God, why do you have such an issue with setting boundaries for yourself? Or
Mhm.
why do you have an issue like with not communicating? Like, can you just communicate with me and can you just set boundaries? And then one day you're going to be alone in your room crying and you'll be like, hmm, I have problems setting boundaries. You know, I could be more communicative. It's so interesting how the universe places people and circumstances in your life that mirror exactly where you're struggling.
Yeah.
And you'll
Oh,
think, you'll be like, and this is beyond like even the projection. Like
yeah.
this is just like a whole different lesson.
Yeah.
And because you're in this place, let me just be honest. I'll be in this place,
You. Yes. There you go. You are.
me, Jenna, where I'm like, I'm spiritual. I don't know about you, but I'm spiritual. So I have awareness, guys.
Who is that knocking on your door right now? Who is that knocking your door?
Get in the back seat.
It's your ego. Get the fuck in the back seat. Stop. Stop.
And then like I'll be like, why is this person not communicating? Why is this person not setting boundaries? I don't understand. Call up all my girlfriends. Why isn't this person setting boundaries? And then they'll say, well, let's look at where you're not setting boundaries.
Here's the mirror. Here's the mirror. And that's exactly what it is. That's
Ah,
exactly
that
what it
kills
is.
me.
Yeah. That is.
We all just need to like turn around instead of being so quick to jump on whoever or whatever. Like, really, honestly, the best way you can move through these circumstances and these things faster is to just look at yourself
Yeah,
um,
completely.
lovingly and gently, but look at
With
yourself
compassion, of course.
and compassionately.
And honest, and it's being honest with ourselves, right? Because we can look ourselves in the mirror and say, you know what, there's nothing wrong.
Yeah.
And we can literally sit in the paradigm of, I know we talk about we're just human, but we actually acknowledge that we are human and we are divine. But like
Yeah.
before I even knew that, it was always like, I'm just human, I'm gonna make mistakes.
Yeah.
But it's one thing to be human, make mistakes, but there's also another thing about taking accountability for those mistakes and saying to yourself, okay, how can I be a better person? How can I there's nothing to fix, but how can I shift my belief systems so that I can show up as a best version of myself, so I can fully express the soul that wants to be fully expressed,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's like, it's you can give someone a mirror all day long, but if they're not aware and they're not willing to be truthful with themselves, they're always going to say, nope, nothing's wrong with me, I'm great.
That is true.
And that's an ego trap, right? That's a
Also, the difference between the beginning, like I feel like in the dark night of the soul, you have that deeper awareness to be like,
yeah,
mm,
for
I
sure,
I see me. In the
for sure.
beginning, you're like, or before, I wouldn't even say in the beginning, before you're like, you don't see it. You're mirroring and being mirrored all
Yeah,
day, all night. You
yeah,
just don't see it. But when you after, you're like, oh, I see now.
yeah. I honestly, like, there's before, as you said, but I think even during the beginning stages of
Yeah.
spiritual awakening, we
Oh,
do tend to do a lot of spiritual bypassing because we haven't really truly learned the shadow work and really facing ourselves in the mirror and saying, you know what, there is a little bit of fucked upness within me, and let me see where that's coming from, versus, you know, before that, it's almost like, what? I am love and light, honey. What are you talking about? Here's a unicorn, here's a rainbow, here's some Skittles. What are you talking about? There's nothing wrong.
well,
But then, yeah, we're
before what? Before the awakening or before? Because I'm like,
before the dark night.
oh, before
Before the dark night. Yeah, before the dark night, like,
the awakening, I didn't know any love and light, no unicorns.
it was just ignorance, 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 ignorance. No, I'm kidding. It's not. It's, I don't think we were bad people before the spiritual awakening. I think we were just unaware.
Yeah.
And there was just a lot of healing to be done. And honestly, like, having gone through all this healing, I do feel a sense of sort of fire within me to say, you know what? I'm going to live this life the best fucking way I can. And
Mhm.
if it means going through more healing and more purging, let's bring it on.
Yeah.
Right? Even if it means looking at myself and saying, "Oh, I got to change that. I got to it's a paradigm shift, it's a mindset shift,
Yeah.
right? It's it's going through that. And the reason why it's hard and the reason why a lot of people don't want to do that is because being who we are is much easier because that's what we know.
Yeah.
In its habit changing as we're adults is a lot harder because you literally have to do it in the midst of having a full-time job, having, like, family, friends, like all these people around you who may or may not understand what you're going through. And I'm actually very lucky because my mom and my family are very open to sort of this craziness. I mean, look at me. Look at me. I'm fucking wearing a tiara. Like, come on, let's just, like, my family's kind of like, all right, she's gone cuckoo, but but I do have family members who I can talk to about this,
Mhm.
and they completely understand. But if you're in a situation where you're going through your spiritual awakening or you're going through your dark night of the soul and like you have no one to go to, know that, like, honestly, I know you guys don't know us, but we're here. Like, you can literally message us and we'll hold space for you because we understand where you're coming from. We have been there. We have been through the darkest of the nights. We've been through the purging, the crying, the feeling like your heart's being ripped open and you're going to die from crying. When in reality, you're just, sometimes it feels that way. But in reality, you're just purging so much emotion and pain that you've never felt before because we've never allowed ourselves to feel that kind of pain.
Yeah.
And, I don't know. Jenna's the technical one on here, so she's gonna add in our, like, social media stuff. So if you guys ever want to just reach out to us and, like, you know, have us hold space for you. I mean, we are healing circle facilitators, so we can actually help hold space and really help maybe illuminate your path. I mean, this conversation right here that we're having, I'm really hoping that it does help someone. And, if anyone's ever in the situation that I was in, know that there is a way out. And it is hard, but it's really just a matter of choosing you above everything else. And I know it's easier said than done, but truth of the matter is, if I could do it, you could certainly do it. And it's a daily thing. It's day by day, doing one thing and one step at a time to choose you. And then every day that you choose you, it gets easier and easier until you get to a point where you say, enough's enough. I no longer, you never deserve this to begin with, but I no longer allow this. I'm taking my power back and I'm walking the fuck out of here. Yeah. And I mean, it's hard. I'm going to tell you right now, when I walked out with my clothes, my crystals, and my books. I left everything else. I mean, truth be told, we were talking about money earlier. I was in a lot of debt because of him. Like, I had zero. Thank God I had a job. I have a job. But like, honestly, I walked out of there with like no money in my bank account. And like, I had to move back home with my parents. Like, that's how rock bottom it was. And honestly, you can get out of it, and you can come to a place of joy, of forgiveness, of compassion for yourself, of just an understanding that there is more to life than living in fear of the unknown.
Yeah. And and I will say the cool part about being in the dark night of the soul is you finally have the realization that everything that you're feeling, everything that you're seeing, it's just an illusion. And it's really breaking away from this illusion and like seeing the reality beyond the reality, and that's when you begin to feel that safety and that security that I think a lot of us are longing for. I think we search in life for things or someone to make us feel secure and stable, but then you realize it's an illusion. We're so taken care of. We're not alone, and whether you connected with your guide, know of a guide, I mean, we all have a guide from birth, whether we've awakened or not, and just waiting to connect with you. And when you finally do make that connection, it's like having a best friend.
Yes. Oh my God. Yes.
Child again, and having an imaginary friend that's not imaginary.
You tend to talk to yourself a lot, but it's okay. No one's gonna judge you. Or maybe some people might judge you, but I won't judge you. We won't judge you. We understand. We talk like, I mean,
I was talking
to her right now.
Right. I was standing outside talking to the planets, and I was like, hi. I was like, can you wink at me to say hello? And a guy walked past me.
I was like, hey, honey.
This guy. He's like, girl is.
Actually, that's a really good point, though. If you go outside at night and look up at the stars, talk to the stars, talk to the universe. And I guarantee you will find that the universe will talk back to you.
Yeah.
In some way or another. And it sounds crazy, but like, there are days when like I'm in my lowest and I'll go outside and I'll just be like, what is it? Tell me. And like, I just all of a sudden feel just energy and love coming through. And it might take time because, again, that's, you don't know what that feels like. So it does take a lot of awareness to understand, oh, that is energy coming through versus I'm going fucking crazy. Because I will say, in the beginning, you're gonna think you're crazy because you're gonna start to feel things and experience things that are so out of this world that, sorry, my eye is like itchy. So out of this world that you think you're going crazy, but you're really not. You're really not. It's par for the course of being in a state of spiritual awareness and being connected. I'm not crying. I like literally, my eye is itchy. And being in a state of just communion with your divine soul.
Yeah. Yeah. So we kind of touched on it a little, like maybe 5 minutes ago. So maybe we can circle back around, but we kind of were talking about the healing that
Yes.
healing that needs to happen. So, what has been since you've been through it completely?
I mean, I feel like the healing is never a destination. The healing is a constant. I think that healing is necessary so that we can feel, because here's the thing, there's a lot of emotions that are within our body. Like there's a lot of trauma, there's stuck emotions, whatever it may be. And a lot of time, at least for me, it was kind of covering sort of me being able to tap into my heart space and living from a space of heart centeredness. And slowly but surely, as I healed and as I peeled off the layers of not enoughness, of unworthiness, of really being able to cultivate more self-love for myself, that I was able to touch my heart space and be able to come from a place of, heart centeredness. And of course there's layers and layers and layers of healing, and we just have to allow ourselves and give ourselves permission to do the healing and to do that work to heal. um, there are days when I feel great and there's no healing to be had. But there are days when I'm just like, we talk about this all the time. Like, girl, I'm having a rough week. There's something that's wanting to come out. And that's the funny thing about like being aware and sort of being aware that there is something that needs to come out, because you kind of will come to a place of, okay, I know there's something heavy in my heart right now, and I need to feel it and I need to express it and I need to purge it. And
Yeah.
we go through our process, right?
Mhm.
And that process is individual. um, I call it alchemy because it's really transmuting one form of energy to another, which is pain and anger or hurt, into freedom and love. But I really think the healing is necessary, and most of us, and before this even happened, like, I didn't think there was anything to heal. I was in fucking denial island is where I was, you
Yeah.
know and until we finally take radical accountability for the fact that there is a lot of healing to be done. And healing doesn't mean that we're broken, mind you. Healing is just because we picked up so much growing up. We picked up things that we probably shouldn't have picked up to begin with, but there's just a lot of things that are just stuck there, that need to come out and purge. And that's the only way to do it. And like crying, let me tell you, crying is probably one of the most cathartic forms of healing and purging. Allow yourself the opportunity to cry. Let those tears flow. Let it flow out of your eyes. Let it flow out of your heart space. Let it flow out of your body, because that's just energy coming out of you. And you will feel so much lighter.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, how amazing did you feel after yesterday's purge?
Oh my God, I felt so good. I mean, look at me now. I did
Like,
not
you're glowing right now.
yesterday. I was like, I mean, you can just, I mean, my whole energy was just,
Yeah.
um, but like you said, you begin to recognize it and it becomes like a session almost. You're like, oh, there it is,
Yeah.
and I need to just take a step back and 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 really just give myself that self-care and honor myself and what I'm experiencing right now, and just deal with it, and not even deal with it, allow it, give yourself permission to experience what is coming up, and to release it. These things come up for a reason, and it really is beautiful. It's a gift. We don't even have to oftentimes go digging for it. It's
Yeah.
just like, bam, here it is.
Yep.
Let it out. Let it go. And the whole time I could just feel that it was just it needed to come out. And I was just saying, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, because it felt so good. It felt so good.
I do love what you did leading up to it, though. You created boundaries for yourself to tell everyone, guys, I'm going through something. And what did you do? You basically said you you can't meet people, you
I canceled my whole
canceled everything.
because
Yeah.
this one was a big one for me. Normally it's like, you take some time during the day, but
Yeah.
I felt it in the beginning of the week, and I knew that there was just really something heavy. And I mentioned to you earlier that I had a Reiki, and she told me
Yes.
that
Oh
there's
yeah, yeah.
really, really dark energy inside of me. So I knew that there was stuff that needed to be released and I needed to get it out. So I just completely, I don't like to use the word detached, but I did, from everything, from work, from people, from and just really spent time going inward, and it came up, and I feel like a brand new person.
Yeah. And that's the thing about this journey is that when you go through those really, really hard times, you actually do have the tools to be able to get yourself out of it.
Mhm.
And you start to create boundaries for yourself because you've cultivated so much self-love, and you've chosen you, and you chose you at that moment, versus disappointing someone because you can't go to lunch with them or whatever else because you're feeling that way. And that's okay. It's
Yeah.
okay to choose you because you're meant to choose you. Choose you first.
I
Fill
know
your
it's
cup up.
weird, we're not used to it, but we are meant to choose
Yeah.
ourselves.
Yeah, we're not. Yeah, we're definitely not taught it. We're definitely not. Yeah, we were definitely not programmed to choose ourselves first. It was always everyone else, because otherwise we're selfish,
Yeah,
and that is not true.
yeah. And who says selfish is we're taught that being selfish
That's true.
is a bad thing.
Selfish actually is not a bad thing unless obviously it hurts people. But sometimes other people have to see why they're hurt by something, because it's sort of, again, a shadow within themselves versus really what you're doing to them. But that's probably a whole nother episode right there on shadow work and all that.
Speaking of other episodes, I feel like we should do one. So, have you ever explored human design?
Yes. Oh my God. I just had my first reading the other day. I broke it up into 3 sessions.
Yeah.
So I'm a generator 1-3.
Okay. I'm a manifestor 5-1.
Ooh. And then what's your, I'm sacral, a sacral something. I don't know. I'm still learning.
Everything else, you're further along than I am. But I bring it up. I would love to spend, obviously another episode discussing it. But I'm feeling, especially in my dark night more than ever, the importance of knowing your human design, because there is a huge strategy there to learn how to work with yourself. Because I feel like I'm in this place now where I'm fighting myself
Yeah.
constantly, more
Yeah.
than ever before.
Yeah.
And I feel like by learning, and I feel like my guides and it's coming up, like they're telling me, explore your human design.
Yeah.
Like any way that they can put it into my ambit, there it's like there it is. Um, so I was just curious about we can talk about it another time, but I just wanted to know if you've explored it or thought about it.
Yeah, I actually I want to know more about it before we talk about it because I want to be able to come from a place of understanding. But I did I I had my first session last week. It's interesting that you said that. But it's actually interesting, and all of it makes sense. So I've had my natal chart read multiple times, and here's the thing about all these other modalities like natal chart reading. It's really just to have a fuller understanding of what your makeup is and how you express yourself and how you can course correct.
Mhm.
When I read my natal chart, it made so much sense why I went through my dark night of the soul during the time that I did,
Mhm.
and why my dark night of the soul had to do with relationship, because my placements and my planetary placements were exactly that, you
Yeah.
know. And there was a reason why I was going through a huge purge and cleansing and healing in the last 2 years, because my Chiron, which is the wounded healer, was in my freaking moon, which is my emotions.
Yeah.
So like all these things really just allow you to have a different perspective of what's happening with our lives, because as above so below, right, when it comes to astrology.
Yeah.
um, but human design is interesting because I think I just read it briefly the other day when I first got my reading, was that it takes it's a combination of 3 different modalities
Mm.
of Eastern ideologies or thought. But I have to really, before I can even talk about it, and I think it'll be a really great conversation to have. And maybe the woman that read me, maybe she could come to one of the episodes. But anyway, that's for another time. I think we kind of digress a little bit, guys.
Yeah.
We're just really happy that you're listening to us and you're here. Episode, what is it? Episode 3. Oh my God, there's only a third episode.
It feels like we've been 10.
Oh my God. But I'm just really grateful that you guys are here listening to us. I mean, I love having soul conversations, especially with Jenna, because like we're always kind of like la 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 la. And we really do learn about each other, but also learn a lot of different things that we can I can use a lot of things that you taught me and vice versa, I feel like. But I'm just really grateful that you guys are listening. I'm really grateful that um, I'm going to say this as a more of like a projecting the future, but I'm really grateful that this actually helped someone
Yes.
somewhere down the line, and I'm hoping that it does. And again, if there's any, I think for me it's really about, like, we talk about purpose, and I'm like, I think for me, like, I feel like my purpose now is to really maybe even help others who are new on this path, to help understand what's going on with them. You're not going crazy. This is sort of par for the course. And if you ever need any support or help or guidance, anything like that, I mean, I will never tell you what to do. I'm never going to tell you what to believe, nor am I a therapist. Just someone who's experienced all of this. So I'm really coming from a place of experience. And so is Jenna. Like, I feel like I'm very much open, and we're very much open for you to reach out to us on Instagram or whatever Jenna's going to do with the information.
Always, always, always. Yes.
That,
So, let's talk about some books and some resources. We just talked about the support, which is us, but some
yes.
books and resources. So,
Oh, girl, lots and lots of.
yeah, share.
Tell me yours first.
Well, you've been through it, so I'm curious. I want to hear, like, what helped you? I'm taking
um,
my pen
okay.
out.
Yeah, a few things that really helped. Dr. Joe Dispenza was one. And the reason why I love Dr. Joe Dispenza is because he really literally takes neuroscience, epigenetics, and quantum physics, and bridges the gap between science and spirituality.
Okay.
Um, that book, Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself, really, really helped me get out of my own head and my own cycle and pattern.
Mhm.
Um, Don Miguel Ruiz, The Mastery of Love.
Mhm.
Oh, that book. There was a line in that book, and for anyone who has ever gone through an abusive relationship, there was a line in that book, and I'm going to paraphrase this, and it basically said, if you are in an abusive relationship, that is not love. And basically, get the fuck out. That
Very
was not his words, but that's basically what I read from it. And it almost gave me permission to say, oh, I'm going to walk out of this.
good.
So Matt Kahn is a channeler. And I was watching one of his videos one day about like soul contracts and soulmates and all that. And I was sort of in that place where I knew this was a soul contract, but I wasn't sure if I was allowed to leave the soul contract.
Right.
And he basically said, and I remember this one day, and I started crying when I heard him say this. He goes, just to be clear, when abuse is happening in a soul contract, that soul contract is officially null and void. I will repeat myself. When you are in an abusive relationship, that soul contract is null and void. And that, I mean, yes, I was like, thank you. That was sort of like the message I needed to hear at that moment, because I was in such a place where I'm like, oh, I don't know if I should leave because whatever it may be. And when I heard those words, it almost again gave me the permission to say, okay, the soul contract is done, signed, sealed, and delivered. Now it's my turn to take my power back and leave. But I think those are three. That's what really helped. Oh, shadow work helped me too, but you know, yeah, shadow work is another episode. But yeah, I think those are really great. Carl Jung shadow work is sort of where
I love Carl Jung. I got his whole Black Book series.
you did. Oh, girl.
I do. I have
Oh
it.
my God. I need you to drop some knowledge and wisdom, because I love, like, his work was what really truly helped me as well, because that shadow work piece was the missing piece in my healing journey.
Mhm. Yeah, and
Sure.
yeah. So as I get through them, I'm happy to send them to you. And I
Yay.
will link all of these books in our page.
Yes. And I'm sure I missed a few, so I'll give you some more. But those were the ones that really called out to me, because I remember those were the ones that really slowly but surely helped me in realizing that I could leave.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that. Yeah, for me, for my books and resources, during my dark night of the soul journey, specifically to me, it's been around money. So one that I actually recently read that has really changed the game for me, and it's a brand new book. I think it's been out maybe 2 months now, 1 month. It's Rich as Fuck by Amanda Francis.
I like that.
Great book, really just talking about the energy of money
Yep.
and really just some life changing journal prompts to really get you to address,
And
you know,
yeah,
yeah, I mean, just blew my mind. I mean, in one chapter,
amazing.
like, wow, wow, girl, hold on. So no, that's been such a great read, and only I think it's like 4.95 on Kindle.
Amazing. You already made your money's worth.
I did, really. Um, I also have really, let's see. Uh, I reread. I've read this before, but I really had to go back to it for this time that I'm in right now. A New Earth.
Oh, Eckhart Tolle.
Yeah, it just, sometimes you have that book that's just a great reminder for you, and you need to just go back in, and that's been really great for me. I would love to recommend the Carl Jung Black Book series, but that's kind of
Yeah.
a lot.
There's actually another one. It's actually new, and my coach is a Jungian therapist. So, um, her teacher wrote a book called Carl Jung in a Nutshell. I had actually just recently bought that book. I haven't gotten into it, but it actually in like a little, synopsis of like his teachings and all that. So that might be a good one too.
Yeah, that'd be great. Oh,
Yeah.
that's so cool. I love that.
Yeah.
But really, really, like the best resource has been meditation.
Oh, I was gonna say it's all.
Oh, yeah. But also meditation.
Yeah,
No,
I agree.
meditation has just been just taking that time, setting aside that time to be with yourself. I mean, so much of our day creates that ungrounding within us. And,
Mm-hmm.
the more that we experience that feeling of being ungrounded, the more we tend to invite that chaos into our lives. And um, really, probably more than any book or accountability or resource, it's really just been spending that time with myself and connecting to my higher self and connecting to my guides. And um, yeah, it's been so healing and so powerful and really allows me see to see the whole point of all of this, you know? Sometimes you just you beat yourself up and you're like, what is the point? I don't understand. Like, why? And you find the answers in there, So, I try to be sensitive about the whole meditation thing because there was a scientist that I really like, God, what's his name? Andrew Huberman, I want to say.
Mm-hmm.
And, he does speak on, that meditation, and I think I brought this up before, is not for everyone. And people need to find ways to meditate that fits them. But just really just finding that stillness and connecting to yourself, however that may be, is so important because really these books and support and resources are all great, but you're still seeking outside of yourself when you have all the answers within. So I
Agree.
cannot stress that enough. And I know people get discouraged rather quickly because, you're like, well, I've had my eyes closed for 2 minutes and nothing's happened. Well, stop expecting and just be. And the more you go there, the more you will see. I love how that rhymed.
You're like Dr. Seuss now.
you know.
But yeah, no, I definitely agree with that for sure. It's honestly, all things aside, it's literally going within you and
Mhm.
finding what your heart has been whispering to you this entire time and
Yeah.
what your soul has been guiding you to. And ego is really loud, soul is really, but a soft whisper.
Yeah.
And a lot of times soul, when she does come through, or he comes through, is very quick and fast. And we tend to get, and it's usually coming from the heart, and then we tend to get our heads involved, and then it becomes all like, oh well, I don't know what that is anymore. But stillness will actually allow you to hear her a lot. And I do soul journal, so that's another thing we could put in there. Soul journaling is really just typing or writing what comes through. And a
Yeah.
lot of times you'll look back into it and you're like, oh, I wrote that. Oh my gosh. Nah, not me. It was my soul channeling that information. But it does get easier, I promise you. The dark night is there for a reason. And there is, like, bathing in that light after going through all that. It was just such a beautiful experience. And I felt literally paradigm shifts and like energetic shifts after that. And it almost like I leaped timelines. And next episode, we'll talk about sort of where we are in this journey
Yeah.
and where we kind of see ourselves to be.
Yes. I love that. I'm so excited.
Yay!
All righty. Well, that concludes episode 3. Thanks so much for
Hours later.
We so appreciate you tuning in. Please like and share.
Yay, we love you guys so much. I mean, I'm like literally sending you so much love right now, you guys. Sending you so much love right now. Thank you, thank you, thank you for listening. And we hope you stay with us throughout this journey because there's a lot more to unveil.
Yes, we thank you. We love you.
And love, light, and gratitude. Thank you guys.
Signing off.
Peace.